let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's do it. What do you guys think about the upcoming rocket changes to carriers? And the reason I can talk about it is because it's been on public test. So I'm not talking about any testing experience other than what we've seen on the public test. Okay?
I'm gonna go last.
For those of you guys who are not in the know, what Wargaming is doing is they are changing up the rockets on planes, carrier aircraft, so that when they go to attack, say, a destroyer or anybody else, before they launch their rockets, instead of the point-and-click adventure, now they fire machine guns first to kind of warn the target, hey, rockets are coming, and then they fire the rockets. Now, believe it or not, it is actually somewhat historical, because you would have fighter planes, when they would go to strafe a ship, they would fire their guns first to make sure that their planes were sighted in properly, and then they would dumbfire their rockets, and then you would get a better chance of hitting with your rockets. Okay, in game, what that means is that there will now be a bigger delay before a destroyer player takes a rocket hit. So they have more time to WASD and essentially dodge. Okay? So, what do you guys think of that? I see some people putting in chat. Personally, as a destroyer player, destroyer main even, I don't know. I play destroyer a lot when I do ranked especially. I welcome this change because now I have less to worry about with carriers. Not so much damaging me. You guys have seen, if you watch my recent ranked streams, I talk about it a lot. I always talk about dodging carriers in queue, because it's not me that I'm worried about. I know how to deal with planes for the most part. I'll take some hits, but I understand the idea of having anti-air turned off, turning into incoming rocket attacks and all that kind of stuff. But too often I find that my teammates in destroyers don't understand that and get themselves deleted early on, and that puts me at a disadvantage, right? So to me, I kind of like the idea, because it means that my teammates, my friends, will probably live longer dealing with carriers. That's kind of nice. Interestingly enough,
I call that wishful thinking.
that is wishful thinking. I mean,
okay.
Well, I'll put in my 2 cents. I think it's like, okay, it's historical and it's sort of quote unquote calibrating the aim of the rockets, which is historical. But I don't think that is still enough to protect destroyers, because here's the thing. I was watching Ahskance stream about the aircraft, and they stay their hang time, like when you release them, they stay in that area a little bit too much longer, which means the spotting of the destroyer is still there. I think it's a good idea for people who don't know about rocket attack planes at low tiers, but I do not think that it is something that really is needed. I think this is just more put on for show than it is to actually embed the player experience, because I really think that it should just come down to, they have to fix the spotting for aircraft. It should be a similar delay for radar, like for spotting for other ships. For an aircraft carriers itself, like, it can spot it, but it takes a while for other ships to see it. That's what I think they should really focus on. It shouldn't be like these machine guns firing, calibrate rockets sort of thing, because that will just keep the spotter, that will keep the ship, excuse me, spotted for a longer period of time. It should be just, it shouldn't, I personally think it shouldn't be put in. Just for that reason, that you keep the ship spotted for a longer period of time.
So I actually disagree. The thing is, and the people make so much of a big deal out of being lit, that just because you are lit doesn't mean you take damage all the time if you have a brain. And the thing with that is that the rockets right now in the current game, rockets, you can't do anything about that. You're going to lose 5, 10, 15% of your destroyer's HP every time they show up unless it's an FDR. That's just a fact. And this new system, I mean, I've played against, like, it's funny that you bring up certain people, but, like, I've played seeing it on PTS and how it works. There is a definitive, like, if the player is not good and they do not predict accurately, rockets do nothing. You're just lit instead. And I will always take being lit and not taking damage over being lit and also taking damage, which is the current form. Because right now, there's nothing you can do as a destroyer. It's free damage for the carrier. They can be the worst player in the game, and the system basically does it for them. You can have your AA off. You can do everything right as the destroyer. You can be completely nose in. If RNG says yes, they'll do 5k to you anyway. It doesn't matter what you do at all. The new system, like, the rockets also have a really long attack time, and that's something that people kind of haven't been mentioning as much. Some of the rockets have, like, 5, 6, 7 seconds after you start the attack. Like, once you click the button, it's like 5 to 10 seconds on some of them for the rockets actually fire.
Oh my god. So, Ahskance.
I see that. That's quite funny.
Speak of the devil, Ahskance, get in here. Get in here, quickly.
Get in here. Argue about carriers. Come on.
What did I do? You raided right when we were doing our Zath chat, my dude, and we are talking right now about the change to rockets and how they work on public test. So get in.
I know. There he is. He's just like, you summoned me.
that was funny.
It was hilarious because I just mentioned you, Ahskance, when I was watching you play carrier in PTS, and about the machine guns.
Particularly with rockets.
Yep.
Yeah. Machine guns aside, like, the machine guns is just an excuse for them to make the attack time longer. What method they would have actually gone by it. The machine guns is just a, hey, look, this is pretty.
Yep.
But
well, I mean, I don't think it's just that. I think
123 views.
I don't have the data for how many people have actually played carriers, right? So if you think about it, let's just take a wild shot in the dark. 30% of the player base tried carriers once and said, and actually continued with them.
Right.
Whereas, like, the majority of them probably went, well, what is this? Oh, this is weird, and just completely bailed off of it. So when they made all the reticles broadside, when they changed this, when they changed that, the average player base is going to have no clue. So, I mean, having the bullet gimmick, it's a way to communicate to every single person that sees rockets without ever having played a carrier in their life what's coming and how it's coming to shoot them. So, like, immediately you're giving a visual cue. This is a teaching tool, plus it looks cool. So, I mean, it's got the visual aspect as well as it's got the teaching aspect. Like, it's totally it's a well-rounded change.
And by the way, raiders, Ahskance, thank you so much for the raid. I'm sure Puddin's going to shout you out at some point, but for those of you guys that are jumping in, I'm Lord Zath, welcome. We are doing our Zath chat where we just talk about what's going on in the game. We just finished talking about nerfing premium ships, which is another hot button issue. And now we're discussing the rocket set stuff. So, Fat Holes, thank you so much, dude, for the sub. So, Ahskance, you like the way things are going, huh?
Fat Holes just resubscribed for 4 months.
With the caveat that nobody likes to be nerfed, because it's not very fun to be nerfed.
You have casted.
I mean, I was having a conversation with Seven. I did my first ever collab, with Seven.
Right.
And I couldn't make the replays work, so we just kind of watched the replay of my stream and commented on it.
Okay.
But one of the things that was kind of pointed out, if you think back to that, the 2019 CC Summit, which was a bunch of community contributors were invited over to Russia, and they were presented to by Wargaming. This is what we're doing. You know, this is how we're trying to address issues. And one of the things that they pointed out was CVs and destroyers, they're both influence the game, but when CVs influence more, DDs influence less. And vice versa. When CVs influence less, TDs influence more.
Yep.
So it's like, if a destroyer needs to be able to influence the game to do its job, then the rocket change, if nothing else, it gives the destroyer more breathing room to be able to do its job, which means that the CV is going to be doing its version of influence while the destroyer does its version of influence, and they don't necessarily have to be in the exact same space, which I think could be cool. And of course, CVs can still hover over the destroyer while people shoot at it. That's still a thing, but I mean, that's just part of what the gig is. If you're a destroyer, you light stuff, people shoot at it. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Before we continue, we have to finish the battle here. We'll have to see what happens with Kadu. Seems as though most changes to the game are directed at making every other class ship deal with the destroyer better. Yeah, Faddles, I just sent you a link to my playlist. I'm not sure if you can download them. I'm sure there's a YouTube downloader thing, something. I don't know, but that's the playlist with all the King of the Sea videos from the last King of the Sea. But Destroyer is OP, obviously. I mean, Destroyer has a lot of influence on battles. That's why when we talk about replays, I always say shoot the Destroyer because that wins games. Oh, it's Happa fodder. I just noticed that.
Oh my goodness.
Tirpitz is a torp boat, yes.
It's the world's biggest torp boat.
And now I see Happa's telling people. Happa's telling people. Oh God, telling people not to violate EULA and Chad, and they're still doing it because they don't understand that he actually works for Wargaming. Oh no. Oh, you can download them because you have premium on YouTube. Oh, that's awesome, Faddles. Okay. All right, this game is about to end. We're going to switch over to Stream Raiders, do a battle there, and then we'll continue. I guess you could call it part 2 of our talk about carriers, because I want to spend a little bit more time discussing where we see that going in the future and stuff like that. So give me a sec. I got to flip over to Stream Raiders, start the battle. Here we go. Gonna do a quick 30-sec ad for pre-roll, and then we go in. CVs versus subs. That's right, the Destroyer Mafia, the DD Mafia. Ahskance, while we're watching this, did you have a good stream, man?
Yeah, I did naval battles. We got 14 out of 14. KSC is locked in a duel to the death with TNG this week.
Oh no.
And if KSC somehow wins, Bogsy has committed to wear a coconut bra on stream.
Okay.
All right. Well, that will be interesting, because I know of one occasion where somebody wore a coconut bra and was banned from Twitch for doing so. So
I wonder who you're talking about.
So that's interesting. I don't know. Desta,
You'll figure out how to do it in a classy way.
Yeah, Desta, I like to just do the pre-roll thing for people that come in, so they don't have to look at an ad when they jump right in. And to be quite honest, what are you missing out on? Just a bunch of guys running around and you're hearing people go, ugh, you know, like I don't know. Skyring came in first. Skyring, there's your prize. Random people, Offie and Reigning Recon. Next up, what do we get from here? I want the 3 stars. So let's go to this guy. Another easy battle for us to do. So I'll go ahead and I'll put my Centurion down. He looks fun. Okay, let's get back into our game. And that was a Tirpitz. Since we're talking about the carrier change, how about I find an epic carrier game? Do I have one? I do not.
Do you want one?
Sure.
Let me look for one real quick. We had one, I think, that was pretty kicking.
All right, sounds good. While that's going on, in the link there, you guys, if you check out in chat there, if you haven't done Stream Raiders before, you just click that link, you tie up your Twitch account, and then you've got the ability to put units down, and it's kind of fun. It's like a role-playing game. that you kind of like grind up your characters in your army and stuff like that and unlock new stuff, and then they got special skins and all that. It's kind of a neat thing that we can do in between streams. I'm sure most of you guys that have been watching are familiar with Stream Raiders and how it works.
It's a good little mini game to have, like, for the in-between.
Yeah. It is a little bit addicting. As a matter of fact, Sithkitten was telling me how she spent like the whole day just playing Stream Raiders on somebody else's stream because she just loves it so much and she just wanted to play it. Like, that's pretty cool.
Okay, it is sending.
All right. Through DM, or are you putting it on the channel? Oh, there it is.
Discord.
All right. Let's get that game up and running. Okay. So we've talked a little bit about the interaction with destroyers. We talked a little bit about the machine gun. I really like how you mentioned, Ahskance, that it's kind of like telling players, hey, this is coming. Be ready. I'd like to know what you guys think now about carriers trying to destroy destroyers. If rockets take the ability out and they start focusing on cruisers with rockets instead, then that leaves bombers and torpedoes to deal with destroyers, correct?
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, as a result, is that almost like I guess you could say like a buff to certain ships that are really strong against destroyers, like Midway, for example. Do you think that will cause those carriers to become more popular?
I wouldn't call it a buff. I mean, it's because in reality it would just be bringing other things down a bit.
Right.
And while yes, there are still ships that could deal with destroyers. Like you have the examples with various types of bombers. They are harder to hit destroyers with, and like it becomes a bit more skill. I mean, I think my biggest problem with rockets is that there is no skill involved right now. They are exceptionally easy. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And like hitting a destroyer with bombers is significantly harder. Hitting a destroyer with torpedoes is significantly harder than with rockets. So like the reward is already there for when you do it right. And like removing the super easy mode and making it so you have to rely, say, on other methods is not a bad thing. Like, yes, it makes carriers not as good versus destroyers, but that's been overdue for like 2 years. So at this point, yeah, I think it would be a good thing.
Okay.
I think it does have the possibility of making the US line even more than what it is. So if you look at like tier 10 ranked, Midway became pretty dominant as the choice, because you'd see 4 to 5 destroyers in almost every ranked game.
Right.
In the Gold League or whatever, and that's like the rockets at tier 10 got nerfed really badly about 9 months ago with the broadside reticle change. So bombs were the only thing that actually does like effects. And if you look at all the other carriers, they don't really have tools to interact consistently. So when you pull the rockets out, it becomes a highlight of the US line. This can do this, but if you want to play any other CV, you kind of don't really have any dependable options. Although the British rockets, they're the most accurate of the HE in terms of like how far or how short the lead time is, etc. So you might see British rockets kind of come back into fashion, but I don't think they're going to be as dominant as they used to be.
Right. And that's kind of the point I was trying to make about American carriers, right? Especially in competitive, because you've got the torpedoes that could deal with destroyers, and you've got, of course, those dive bombers, which, yes, they require more skill to line up than rockets, but a really good Midway player can pretty much just bullseye a destroyer that's trying to dodge, right?
Well,
if RNG goes right, yes.
Yeah, right.
It really is
you
RNG
have to keep
dependent.
that note in there.
Yes.
But yes, they still can.
Speaking of rockets, this might be a decent strike. I don't remember. There's like a 30 to 40 degree angle you have to hit on a DD to get good pen damage, and if they show you that, you can do some serious oof. So it still takes some. Yeah.
Well, you did that to me in ranked.
Yeah.
No, literally, I ran into him when I was playing the Kiev, and so you were asking me on stream, why did you go so far south? I was trying to get around to the backfield, and then at that point, when it was like 4 ships there, I'm like, well, the hell with this. And I saw you, so I'm like, well, look, I want to pick a fight with Ahskance, and I wanted to see how I could do against you as a carrier player with me and Destroyer. So that's the reason why all that went down.
Well, okay, I get that.
The way it went. And I almost got you too.
Yeah, you did. I was lucky that one of my teammates flexed back and helped out because, like, again, like, CVs don't necessarily have the tools to really overcome those situations, especially not the German ones. But when it comes to bombs, if you read the forums or you read Reddit or whatever, mostly you're just gonna hear a bunch of get good scrub. You know, you don't dev strike destroyers every single drop. What's wrong with you, sir? But it's really all RNG. The destroyer is like a third of the reticle. There's all kinds of places for the bombs to go that are not the DD. Some of the best hits I've gotten on destroyers were when I had to take a broadside drop and RNG somehow landed 4 on top of the DD for some random stupid reason. So it's a gimmick. It works, but it is not reliable at all.
You mean like MVR AP bombs versus everything nowadays?
Kinda.
Right.
Oh, the battleship is 80% of the reticule. How did we miss?
Well, that's part of the game, right?
Thankfully, it finally happened.
So, you anything else that you guys want to discuss about the upcoming changes? Remember, we've seen it in public test. Doesn't mean that it's gonna show up in the next patch. Wargaming could always say we don't like what people are saying about it, or maybe they'll tweak it more, stuff like that.
When was the last time they actually did that, though? Like, what showed up on public test and didn't make it to live server, like, just shoved onto us? Somebody in chat will know, like...
I mean, public test servers mostly to test the code, make sure it's not going to break.
Yeah, like, the stuff that's coming in the patch is basically coming.
Yeah, they'd have to go in and, like, rip all that code out.
No.
And then have to retest it. Like, there's no way.
Also,
It's going to go live.
Subs were not on the PTS. They were on one of the other test servers, if I remember right, exactly.
Yeah, and then they brought it to live test with a special mode.
Yeah, but that was a different operation and everything and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or no, was it? I forget.
No, it was a special game mode, like random co-op, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the PTS iteration that we're thinking of was just that mode being put in. It wasn't like
now following.
Did they do it on CST? I think that's the server it was done on.
I don't know.
I forget. There's like 5.
But the point is, I mean, you're right, Toxic. It's we haven't
coming, like we just have to deal with it.
Right. But I mean, so
I think it's a good change, though.
What it's going to turn into, I think, with rockets, of course, is people are going to be using rockets more on battleships and cruisers, but they're also going to be more incentivized to spot destroyers as opposed to spot and kill, right? Which is what we see right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if anything, like I during our little collab or whatever with 7 we were watching, I played a DD against a CV, and I think he struck at me like 12 to 15 times, landed a single rocket for about 1,000 damage. So there was, now granted it was with Tiny Tims, I didn't know they had such a bad lead time.
Oh yeah.
But it's gonna be such a difference. Like, you'll watch in this thing when there gets to be a point where it goes down to the wire where I'm going after DDs. And I don't have any help from the team while doing it at all. So me being able to do this, being able to just be like, I'll handle it, don't worry guys, and then suddenly not having that option,
right,
changes the entire dynamic of the map. It changes what can happen. So it's like, it sucks to be nerfed, but I really do think it's a healthy interaction. I'm trying to maneuver behind this stupid rock, and it's like,
I see that
pilot's not working.
I mean, you had a ranked game I watched where you basically took down a Kitakaze, I think it was, with your carrier. Even though the Kitakaze was shooting it with guns, even though the Kitakaze was torping you, he was dead. He just didn't know it, right? Because you're like, ha, I got this. He just turned around, gone. It was your Parsifal, even if I remember right. So
sure.
And that's what you're talking about, right? In that kind of situation, I mean, sure, you should try to be able to defend yourself in the carrier, but it shouldn't be like an easy, you know, haha, I'm a carrier, you die anyway kind of a deal, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just CVs are so accurate that when you give them the tools to accurately deal damage, they're going to accurately hit DDs.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pull back on the accuracy, then it makes them much more team reliant, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of like healers in other games, a healer can't just run through and do whatever he wants because he can heal himself. He just gets mobbed and die.
Right.
So you pair him with someone else, and that someone else can provide the support, and then they both work together and they become greater on hold, as opposed to just the healer running around doing everything.
Right. And we've talked about this before, about the CVs, you have to think of it as a support class more than like a, you know, a class that just dominates everything. So
it shouldn't be that.
Right,
really.
it shouldn't be. The reality is, it was that when they first did.
Yes, historically speaking, CVs are completely overpowered compared to everything else in the game. But like, you have to tone it back. You have to make it into something for the purposes of this being an arcade game.
Right, right. Because the point is fun, right? They want players to have fun playing the game because that means that they'll come back and they'll play more, they'll spend money, etc. So. All right, any other last questions or comments you guys want to make about the change coming up?
I mean, I guess one of my questions is, I see people a lot of the time with this Rockets change that's going to be made. Do people think that this is enough, or are people still insisting that we need to have the spot and go minimap only, or radar delay, or whatever else? I'm just curious what other people think. I have an opinion on this.
Oh my god.
That's actually probably not what you think. But,
that poor Riga.
Hey,
I weep for him.
there are no tears. He could have had Kuznetsov. No tears.
See, now, if there were the machine guns, he would have been warned that he was about to die.
He would have seen his death incoming.
Okay, well...
This is not rocket related, but I have kind of a philosophical question I might like to ask the court, unless you have more questions to go through.
Well, I mean, so Toxic asked that question, and I'm trying to look at what people are what people are saying in the response, and it looks to me like some people. It's hard to tell what people are saying, basically.
I think, well, after listening to what Ahskance had to say as well as Toxic, my opinion has changed a bit regarding the aircraft. So, I guess I should say, well, thanks for changing my opinion. I'm just gonna say this. I like these conversations, because it can help your opinion change a bit. But yeah.
Well, of course, that's not the goal, right? We're not here to like make you think a certain way or something like that.
No. I'm just saying, like, my point of view has changed.
When you understand something more, you can make a more fully informed opinion and decisions about how you think about it. And like, it's not very much of a secret that the entire meme of my existence is not playing carriers. While I have played many carrier games, you can't see it on my account in random battle. But fundamentally speaking, I mean, being lit versus taking damage, like, those are two things, and it would be nice if they were separated. Like, the carrier can either light you or do damage, maybe, I don't know, it's just a thought.
Okay.
That I came up with right now. But I think the change just goes towards a better. It's a start going somewhere. Where we're going, who knows? But you have to take a step to climb the stairs.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. I like that metaphor.
I mean, actually, like, okay, I've just thought about it. The Dutch cruiser airstrikes don't spot destroyers. They don't spot anything.
Nope.
As far as I'm aware, that's what it says on the notes anyway. If it was something more like that, who knows? Or maybe it just spots for the carrier, but it's hard to tell.
Right. you know, to answer your question directly, from my opinion, I think it's like you said. I like the idea of incremental changes. I don't like gigantic sledgehammer nerfs, buffs, whatever. And I consider this to be an incremental change in how CVs work with the rework, right? There have been many incremental changes. Anti-air impacting one plane at a time instead of the whole squadron, right?
That was like the biggest change of all.
Right. That was also incremental. That was just a, you know, turning the reticle is another incremental change. So I would say that from my perspective, if Wargaming deems this to be enough, then they're probably not going to change anything else, like spotting or whatever you guys are talking about. If it still doesn't seem to be like enough to satisfy what they're trying to accomplish, spotting is on the table. And there were comments about making spotting like radar, where there's a delay before it shows up. That's a nifty idea. Look, point and click adventures.
Hey, there's a lot of skill involved in that strike. I'm just saying, rawr. I've honed over many, many months.
All right. So you said, Ahskance, you had some other questions you wanted to ask?
Well, this is more of a philosophical question. Because I have a Discord, people often bring stuff up, you know, CVs stop destroyers from doing this or people from flanking that. And if you are in a Shimakaze and you're running on that, like, all the way on the A line or the 10 line, you're trying to, like, sneak all the way to the edge so you can chuck out a bunch of torps, get double dev strikes on some battleships, and then suddenly everything's amazing, right? But, the CB came over and spotted you. Great. Now you don't get the surprise. Now you don't get the torps. Now you don't get the cool highlight game. And you have to run away and potentially lose some health while doing it. So the question to me comes down, my fun versus your fun. Because on the one hand, the Shimakaze wanted to obliterate 2 destroyer or battleships, have a highlight game, millions of damage. But if the carrier shuts that down, the battleships get to play the game. He saved his team. Like, his team had a good experience while the Shima had a bad experience. Like, in the my fun versus your fun, sometimes it just goes that way. And the rocket change is going to pull some of that off, sure, but still, like, the spotting or the stuff that a CB can provide, I think, is important in enabling the rest of their team to do things they want to do. They just might not realize what the CV is offering them.
I mean, this is operating with the assumption that the battleships pay attention to the destroyer being lit in any way, but
right, but that's true. That's true in any game, regardless of if there's a carrier involved or not, right?
You can enable your team to do something, but whether the team does the thing is also out of your control.
Right. That's why some people prefer Smallland over Z52 in ranked, because Z52 you enable your team, Smallland you do
it yourself.
Yeah, you're just like, I got this, guys. Just yeah.
Like a Shimakaze can be lit on the 10 line, which why is he there in the first place? But that's another story. And whether, like, if his torps are in the water, who knows? I mean, and just again, being lit there doesn't necessarily imply he's instantly going to die there either. I do think there's a little too much of this mentality of being lit equals being dead. I know dodging is hard, like, I accept this fact, but there are ways to mitigate the damage that you take while you are lit. Will you take damage? Yes. Will the rocket planes hit you in this new update? Probably not. So you're only going to take a shell or 2 from the guys who were already shooting at you in this update, and you're not going to take the additional 3 or 4K.
So that frees your brain up to not be so worried about the incoming rockets, but to think more about shells coming in, right? Like the battleship, cruiser shells, whatever that are nearby. What do I have to look out for, right? Which is interesting. Somebody had mentioned before, and I haven't seen it mentioned here in chat, but when we were talking about this before, one of the things to think about is that also frees up a destroyer player's mind for if we run into submarines, right? If subs get released and destroyers now have to deal with subs on top of everything else on top of that. Right?
Yeah, I think destroyers are definitely going to get more piled into their plate. And if the spotting is taken by subs, because subs are lower detection or whatever, well, then the destroyers aren't stuck in the front line doing the spotting, which means they can be moving to counter. And yeah, if you have planes on top of you at the same point, especially if you're trying to deal with a sub that's like off on the corner of the map, well, if rockets come over and just murder you, well, that's no fun.
Right.
So giving you some breathing room, I think, is really appropriate.
And again, just I've already people going nuts about subs in chat. We have no clue what it's gonna be like when they come out. I mean,
no, we don't.
We don't even know because they've said it's not until the next ranked season, which isn't even until August, like end of August, where they're gonna test them, and we have no clue what they're even gonna look like at this point because every iteration has been completely different.
Right.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, and hopefully we just keep having more and more of it.
That's right.
Last thing we need is submarines.
Well, yeah, interesting. I'm wondering why my thing's not working. Huh, whatever.
Okay,
I'm supposed to have a slideshow going in the background while I pick out the next replay, but oh well. Well, I guess that'll cover our CV talk for now. Ahskance, once again, dude, good timing.
that was weird.
That was masterful.
That was hilarious.
Oh, that's okay. That's why I was. It was black because the game had an error message. It crashed after your replay was so epic. It could not handle the skill of you killing those destroyers. It went. So that's why I had a black screen there. Also, I need to thank some people: AMD Matt and Milan Via and Havoc Soul. I'm probably butchering you guys' names. Sorry. Hans Roaming and Tiger for the follows. Make sure you hit ! Ticket. There is a giveaway for a subscriber camouflage going in chat. You have to be a follower to win. That's it.